Dragon's holding just 176 meters from the space station.
Sunday morning, some 19 hours after making history, NASA astronauts Doug Hurley and Bob Behnken rode their spacecraft to the doorstep of the International Space Station and docked.
Soft capture confirmed.
After a series of post-docking checkouts, the hatch was opened and the two astronauts joined Station Commander Chris Cassidy as part of Expedition 63.
We have Bob Behnken from SpaceX Demo 2 mission entering the International Space Station. Followed by Doug Hurley.
It's obviously been our honor to be just a small part of this. We have to give credit to SpaceX, the Commercial Crew Program, and of course NASA. It's great to get the United States back in the crewed launch business, and we're just really glad to be on board this magnificent complex.
Liftoff of the Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon. Go NASA, go SpaceX, Godspeed, Bob and Doug.
The journey began with a flawless launch of the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket and Crew Dragon capsule. Until now, only a handful of nations have ever launched humans into space. That has changed. SpaceX became the first commercial company to send NASA astronauts on their way. The Crew Dragon spacecraft carried Doug Hurley and Bob Behnken on a ride to the International Space Station. Hurley and Behnken are the first NASA crew to lift off from U.S. soil on a U.S.-built vehicle since the Space Shuttle program ended 9 years ago.
And with the help of Elon Musk and the SpaceX team, we have delivered.
About 9 minutes after liftoff, the Crew Dragon reached orbit, a milestone on its journey. Cheers erupted from the NASA and SpaceX teams in Florida and California. President Donald Trump, who watched the launch from the Space Center, added his words of praise.
Moments ago, the world bore witness to the flight of the first new manned U.S. spacecraft in nearly 40 years since the Space Shuttle launched in 1981, a long time ago.
On the day American astronauts returned to space on an American rocket from American soil for the first time in nearly 10 years. You did it.
Dubbed Demo 2, this is a test flight. Its success will open the door for 16 operational flights to the space station using a SpaceX rocket and Crew Dragon capsule. NASA will no longer be the owner and operator of the vehicle, but the customer. In order for this partnership to work, Crew Dragon had to be built much safer and forgiving than the Space Shuttle.
From our perspective, a capsule design is a pretty tried and true design. It's a pretty safe design. It gives us abort capability from the pad all the way up into space, which the Space Shuttle, I think, has been well publicized, didn't have that capability.
In a tradition dating back to the Mercury program, NASA and its astronauts always name their spacecraft. Once in orbit, Hurley gave it up in a nod to the past.
Without further ado, we would like to welcome you aboard Capsule Endeavour. We chose Endeavour for a few reasons. One, because of this incredible endeavor NASA, SpaceX, and the United States has been on since the end of the shuttle program back in 2011. The other reason we named it Endeavour is a little more personal to Bob and I. We both had our first flights on Shuttle Endeavour, and it just meant so much to us to carry on that name.
With only one U.S. astronaut, Chris Cassidy, on the station right now, Hurley and Behnken could stay for several months to help out. So far, NASA has not announced when they'll be coming home. The success of Crew Dragon means NASA will no longer have to rely on the Russians to ferry its astronauts to and from the ISS. And it is quite possible that in the future, both Russian cosmonauts and even space tourists will be riding a Dragon to the station. While the astronauts were riding Dragon Endeavour, they took some time to give us a tour of their digs and show us it's not as cramped as we might think.
I'm going to kind of do a side spin.
And they introduced us to a dinosaur their sons chose to fly with them.
We did, it turns out, end up with one stowaway on board our vehicle when we launched today. It was not just Doug and I who accomplished the launch here. We do have an Apatosaurus aboard.
Nicely done, gentlemen. Nicely done. For MyRadar, I'm John Zarrella.
Follow MyRadar on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Download MyRadar on iOS, Android, Amazon Alexa, Xbox, and Windows.